So, for those of you that have joined us, welcome. We're so happy for you to be here with us this evening. I'm Karina Mueller with Motivity Care, and we take the complexity out of caregiving management. And both Michael, my colleague who's here with me, and I will get deeper into the kind of work we do and how we help caregivers and how we resolve issues of caregiver hell. But I will give my lovely colleague here, Michael, a moment to introduce himself as well.
Thank you, Karina, and thank you for those that have joined our webinar this evening. My name is Michael Mastriani with Longevity Income Solutions. We are a national company specializing in elder care financial solutions, and we thank you for being a part of this tonight with us. Karina, I appreciate your introduction. Why do you think we're going to have this conversation tonight?
Because there's so many people out there in caregiver hell.
And I know we can laugh about it. We know it's not funny to be in that process, but you have to almost smile when you think about or laugh or you try to have a chuckle when you have to think about the major emotional toll that it is that people go through at this point.
Absolutely. I mean, I made a silly joke, but I don't minimize nor diminish the aspects and the stress and the mental burden and the frustration and all the elements that go into being in the midst of caregiver hell, or even as caregiver hell, you feel like you're approaching it or it's coming on. I think that's also highly overwhelming of like, oh no, there's an avalanche coming my way. Sure. And I'm going to get stuck in it.
And I concur. And I think on that same point is that I think because we've both gone through this, we can have this sort of chuckle moment and be like, yeah, it is hell, because that's the reality. And our goal here tonight is to help people that, again, if you're dealing with this with a loved one or you're working with people and constantly seeing them going through this struggle, is to find a pathway to get through these difficult times and find the resources that can support you and make this job easier overall.
Yeah, and I think that's a fundamental point in both what Motivity Care does and longevity, and what we do personally is alleviate and offer practical tools and offer solutions. And I think one of the powerful statements that we want to get out to people is that there are great resources and there are great opportunities out there for you to reach out to that will help you as you're going through the caregiver hell or as you see it approaching. And we definitely represent that. But Michael, what I would like to ask you though is, can you tell me a little bit how and why you decided to get in this field and co-create Longevity Income Solutions?
It's a great question. Our organization was built on years of planning through the complexities of life events, going through trials and tribulations through, I apologize, dealing with financial concerns that loved ones face when they're dealing with a care issue. And what we've specifically have dealt with personally has led us into this past more than just the normal, help us take our funds and make them more. You know, I think that there has to be an approach that families take and feel when they're going through a struggle. Dealing with caregiver issues that are significant. And we know that the challenges you're going to face not being able to move forward because of the fact that the process is so overwhelming. If you can do the financial piece well, which connects to all these other open items, you're going to have a better outcome. I spent years dealing with family issues, helping take care of a father who was passing away with cancer and untreatable issues that no matter what you did, it couldn't get any better. And while you not only support your family at that same time and running a business at that same time, the stress that piled on years and time and everything that went through that, you feel helpless. So you know what that financial and the emotional toll that it takes. And being able to understand what that is, coming out of it from the other side, led us to a really creative approach at minimizing the stress for others that are going through it. So yeah, that's why we got back into this business and did it from that end. How about you, Karina? What was your impetus to start Motivity Care and do what you were doing now?
Uh, well, one of the impetuses was one of my crazy family stories, really, which I think is a big cornerstone of why my partner Mim and I helped, create Motivity Care, and that's and I will just tell it briefly. But we were all in Chicago for Thanksgiving a few years back, and we were in different locations within the city, and my brothers and I got a call from my mother: "Your father is collapsed in the hotel room, and I don't know what to do, and I have no idea what's happening." And so two of my brothers ran to the hotel to take him to the ER. My sister-in-law and I ran to take care of my mom. And at this point, my father was lucid, but we couldn't figure out why he had suddenly collapsed.
Wow.
And it became sort of a trial of errors amongst all of us adult children, trying to figure out, well, where's dad's Medicare, and where's dad's insurance, and what are dad's medications, and what do we tell doctors? And literally my sister-in-law is frantically photographing meds and sending them to my brother so that he can give them to the ER doctor. And I'm trying to ask my mom. I was like, I have no idea. And I was like, where's his medical directive? Like, what's the plan? What plan? And it just became this like crashing into each other, overwhelming, and all being adults, right? This isn't like we function in everyday lives, but we realized, wow, we know nothing of our parents and nothing of what's going on. And here's a pretty big crisis in the middle of Thanksgiving, and my mother doesn't even know. And it just sort of was this big aha moment of, there's got to be a way to centralize information and find those resources and understand the important steps that have to be taken. And that's really one of the reasons we did create Motivity Care, is because it has this tech-enabled service, right? We have an aspect of it that's a platform to centralize not just one's medical and legal information, because that's sort of where you first go, but there's also aspects of memberships and passwords and wish lists and whole things of personal information, and taking a 360 view of that person. And at that moment, it would have been great to have that about my dad, because also what makes us unique is we can add collaborators down to the most minor details and documents. So I could have easily, my brothers could have been collaborators on certain aspects of what the information is, and then they could have chosen to give certain things to the doctor. They could have contacted lawyers or financial advisors, or the Medicare specialist that's listed in the platform, as opposed to literally scrambling and going, well, my parents live in New York and we're in Chicago, and all that information's in New York, and now what do we do? So I think it's really important to centralize and have one central point of entry for that information. And I think that was really an important point. And the next steps after that, right? As I'm sure trying to say, okay, now he's out of the hospital. Now, what are the next steps? Now, what are the resources and the things we can do? And how do we support our mom in this process too?
Sure.
And how do we get him home? Fly him home, and et cetera, et cetera. There's all these elements. So at least if you have a trusted resource and a trusted person in a concierge service that Motivity has, and you centralize the information, then it instantly alleviates some stress.
I think, look, the aha moment's great. And I like that there was a humor to it. While I'm sure at that moment, it was not at all a very calm situation, but looking back and having the ability to have that laugh is great. But I think it is important to, you mentioned things like planning, and you mentioned about trusted resources, and you mentioned about, a centralization of important documentation, and all of that is really critical. And, where my takeaway from the immediate family situation with the father on that same point of view was, I thought I had a lot of this knowledge. But the problem is once you're in it at that moment, everything clouds your judgment. And whether it's being able to go right over here and grab what you need to do, or you're just focusing on that immediate care need, or taking care of that one particular responsibility you might have to do in this process, and everything else is on the back burner. And you don't realize, well, if I did it this way, it might be a little bit better. And you don't want to add anything more to the plate at the same time too, because it's already enough. The emotional piece is huge. You don't need to add more.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I think we, both longevity and motivity, try to teach people is the idea of delegating, and the idea of dealing with when you're the primary caregiver and you are in that moment of hell, you, aside from being overwhelmed at times, there's also an element of, I have to do everything, right? And I have to be the center of everything, and I have to make all the decisions, and I can't let go, and I can't delegate. And we really try to teach it's important to delegate certain things. We understand that you're the primary caregiver. And yes, if you have all of that centralized, and then you add collaborators so that you can delegate, so that you can know who are trusted advisors and family members and friends that you can reach out to, and you can easily give them information if they need it too, or an aid, or whomever that may be too in that service. And it becomes a broader team. They say it takes a village. And
Yes.
I think longevity and motivity bring the village.
Well, I completely agree with you. I love your platform. I think that's the reason why we've connected over this time, and been working together to help families going through this, because we see what a unique approach you have at being able to centralize the information and put it there. Because once that's there, all the plans that are being made at that point have all the missing pieces, and also being able to address with any of these unknown parts that come up, because you never know what can happen. And it's also, your platform works on both sides of this, being able to, even if people aren't in the care situation yet, the support that, that there's a backup plan already in place when you're ahead of the curve. It's never too late to plan. We'll talk about that. And that's one of the reasons why I think we have a very unique relationship that we've built over this time, is that because the common philosophy of being able to support this with these resources and having these access points, and the designs and the plans are well thought out, and resources that are going to be able to provide sound guidance at that moment's notice when things can change at any point, are there.
Yeah, I think the human aspect that longevity and motivity bring is really important as well.
Yep.
The empathetic side of it, the personal experience side of it, the really having gone through it, and developed the professional expertise and the personal expertise, I think also is really important.
Well said. That human relationship, it's not just the professional side, which you have to provide, to people going through this. And I think it's the human, to have those chuckles so we can experience or share what our experiences were, and can, share them with others, so that they know it's bad now. There's a way to make it a little bit better. There's a different approach to take. And by the way, let's help you figure out this journey a bit more.
So, Michael, what I would love to do is tell everybody who's listening the experience we had together with a client.
I concur.
I think that's going to give people a really great idea, and hopefully they'll walk away with some tools as well of our work. So a while back ago, we had a client who called us. Husband had been diagnosed for a bit now with Parkinson's, but it was getting progressively worse. And she really found herself in sort of a whirlwind of stress and caregiver hell. And
Couldn't leave the house.
yeah, she couldn't leave the house. He's 70 years old, had been a very successful attorney. And I think this relates back to, you think you've planned and you think you're ready, but are you? And, so it took a moment for her to even get on the phone with us, to take that time. But when she finally did, I sort of said, okay, I understand and I respect what you're in right now, but we need to take you a little bit out of the situation. And I want to walk you through what you have in place, what you don't have in place, and what your needs are, right? And I would love to get you onto this platform so that your adult children have access to information as well.
Mhm.
And know your passwords, know your alarm codes, know your other services that you are controlling completely, and no one else has that information.
Sure.
And at first, there was a lot of resistance because of caregiver hell, but once she sort of took a breath and realized, okay, you're going to help me through this, you're going to walk me through this, you're going to help me get my 3 adult children involved. And when I say adult children, in their 30s, like this isn't like,
They're not kids.
a 16-year-old. And we're going to go through this together and understand all the elements, whether it's legal, medical, memberships, account services, et cetera, and put that all into the platform and centralize it.
Mhm.
And once we did all that, it was very interesting. She sort of took a really big breath. And then I said, I understand that you have been planning and you've worked with a financial advisor, but I really believe that you should speak with Michael at Longevity and have a conversation with him, because I think it's also fundamental in taking you a little bit out of this caregiver hell that you're in right now and helping alleviate some of the steps. So Michael, I'd love for you to share how your conversation with her went and what you all put in place for the family.
Absolutely. And I think, we talked about this fear of the, the fear of the unknown, which again is the hardest part of trying to get somebody to change doing what they have to do in this process, and understand that I know what I have to do from day to day, maybe from hour to hour. And if I do it this way, my day's easier. But if I change that process, I don't know what's going to happen. Is it going to be good or bad? And I think, and I can't wait to share what our approach is in this process, but we have to understand that there's a guilt. There's a guilt to change the dynamic of, I'm either the spouse of this person or it's my loved one, it's a parent, and I need to be doing this particular service for this person. And if it's not me, I'm going to feel very bad about myself, that I'm not being the person I'm supposed to be in this particular relationship, situation, whatever it might be. So this woman could not, she was nervous to walk into her bathroom to comb her hair because her husband would walk out the door and he was taller than her. And the problem with that was that they put locks on the door, but he could still go up and reach the locks. But if they put it higher, she couldn't. So she couldn't get out of her own house at times. And that wandering became a challenge. And it even became a challenge within the community they lived, because management of this condo community was like, you can't be left alone at all. So the wife was completely trapped in her home, but she needed care. She needed to have care brought in or a location for her husband to be taken to. And again, they built assets over time, but they were deathly scared to use them, or she was, because they didn't know how long this was. When you have a dementia condition and everything else is healthy, that can just continue to go on for years and years and years, and you don't know what's going to happen there. So we were privileged when, obviously, we got that phone call from you and we set up this joint meeting to start to talk about how we can help. And we knew that was tough because, yes, they did have an advisor. Our conversation right there is, you had a person that was great to help you when you were retiring and take your money or help build it over that period of time. but they're really not scared or not, they're not skilled in the process of being able to identify what you need now to give you that guarantee and confidence in being able to move forward, getting care you need, making some financial decisions that are going to help you breathe easier, and also know that we can do certain planning that will be able to protect assets for you, continue to get the care you need for your loved one, and also know that you're not going to do it the incorrect way. I say this on a regular basis, that people have a financial statement that they get from their broker that says at the bottom, we're not here to give you tax or legal guidance. We are. If you don't have that comprehensive plan that's also going to look at the health issues that are coming down the way and what that prognosis may be, and putting in those guarantees to know that that money is going to be there and can grow safely, and being able to look at all the tax and the legal ramifications and strategies that might make sense now and in the future, missteps can be a really costly factor. When you have a team that can do all those moving pieces, you're well protected.
And that's great. Thank you for explaining that, because I think that's always a question of, the difference between longevity income solutions and a more traditional financial advisor at a UBS or a Bernstein or, one of those firms. But in this particular situation, if I remember correctly, you guys did something really interesting, which was you took an immediate plan in a short term, and then you sort of elongated it, right? So there was like a plan that was like 1 to 3 months, and then something maybe 6 months, and then a year. Am I?
No. The strategy was that they didn't have any long-term care insurance. So she was also nervous about spending the dollars just in that purpose. So look, there were some veterans benefits we were able to qualify for because we could look at different service record pieces for this gentleman. We also were able to look at ensuring that all the rest of their documents were completed from the legal piece. The 1 to 3 was, let's start here and see what it's like dipping your foot in the path of getting some support in your home and putting your husband in this environment. See how he reacts. See how you react feeling in this process. The kids would talk to their mom, and she didn't want to listen at that point. Then they'd come in and they'd be stressed out because they were supporting the process when they had young children on their own. So everybody has something that's going on, and mom sort of held the cards. So if we were able to do it in bits, and whatever the situation is that the person needs to get into, by taking it in small pieces, he said, we spent 2 months. Actually, the first plan was, let's say 1 month. Let's take it in this 4 weeks and see how this goes. And we brought it in. And then by the time we got to that second month, we added a little bit more, and she was okay with it, not pushing too fast. And then as the plans continued to go, and we did some dynamic trust work, and we did some things with what they currently had in that process, we were able to open the door for additional dollars to come in that nobody would have thought about. But it was because people just didn't step outside the box that they were normally felt that, okay, I don't want to change something right now because I can count on that. But they don't know whether or not that plan is going to make sense to them.
Right. And that's also on the Motivity side. It's a very similar thought process, right? It's okay, let's take it one step at a time. Let's understand the information. Let's understand, and let's go beyond the traditional medical. Let's look at the person's personality. Are they an introvert, extrovert? What are their dietary laws? What are their nutritional preferences? I think we both have a unique perspective of bringing a 360 view of the human being. So I love that Longevity Income Solutions takes it beyond, again, as we said, the traditional financial advisor, and looks at the long-term insurance and considers different vehicles and opportunities, and does it in a slow process that person who's in the middle of feeling exhausted and overwhelmed and guilt and can't add another thing to their plate, all of a sudden goes, wow, okay, well, maybe this is going to help me sleep better because now I have a plan and I have all my information in one place with Motivity. I have a concierge manager with Motivity that my children can reach out to if they need to and as a resource. And I have a long-term financial plan with Michael, and I can tap into that resource. And now it becomes sort of a layer of, there's a plan, there's some stress relief, there's some source of trust and confidence, right?
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, and your platform was incredibly helpful for us because we were able to be part of it as a collaborator in this process. And we had access to the information that we needed on a regular basis to be able to move forward and what our plan would be, and taking it that one step at a time, because certain things can't be changed around. And and again, I think our philosophy on both sides is that we're not here to reinvent the wheel. We're here to to relieve some of the stress of the process. So we'll work at your pace, but you have to open that door and you have to be able to have that conversation. And again, it's tough. It's tough because it's a new dynamic, a new time, a new something else that you have to add to the plate when you're not really ready to do that. So it's that willingness to do that. And that gave us all the ability from your support and having an approach that it wasn't just, like we said, it's not just a professional, we do this. You know what they're going through. You held their hand to be able to support getting them into these programs and putting their stuff where it needs to be and helping figure out who's doing what effectively so that mom didn't have to think about it anymore. And then again, the years of experience that we have in dealing with the nuances of the senior healthcare industry, the home care piece, what it's going to be like when they decide finally that dad is moving into the community situation and setting, what that cost is like, what the pivots that can be for, oh, I needed $3,000 one month and the next month I need $7,000. And how does that change the dynamic? And if you don't have that plan in place to know that you can make those changes, it's not going to work well.
Yeah. And I think another thing that you just touched upon, but I think we should mention too, is both of us have worked as sort of facilitators of communication, right? Because I think in this particular situation, which I think is a great example, the mother being in this sort of overwhelmed spinning situation, feeling like she had to do everything, and the adult children feeling like mom was not letting them in to help and do things. And by bringing us in and bringing you guys in, it helps facilitate the conversation. And sometimes having that third party to sit down and have a conversation with mom and even dad, and understand things and be able to say things in a safe, open space, I think is also really valuable.
I don't think you could have said it better, and I hope I didn't cut you off, because coming from that background, coming from what we know and what we've gone through, there's specialists that deal with things on the medical side. You have a good financial person, there's attorneys and things like this, but if they're not the ability to connect with each other, especially when you have these major changes that are happening actively in your lifestyle, it doesn't work as well as it could be. And as a resource that's not just focusing on these one or two areas and being a sounding board that I need this help, and being able to have great network partners that we've built over the years to bring in those other support systems, because you hear it in the conversation. This is going on. Why don't we have this thing, Brett? And they've already opened the door with us that they're now more able, I would say that, to accept a new conversation with another person that can help alleviate more of the stress that's going on at that moment. So
again, thank you for touching on all these great points, Michael. I think the network resources that both Motivity Care and Longevity have built really do alleviate the caregiver hell. We really pride ourselves in having those resources, because again, what becomes exhausting and frustrating and overwhelming is finding those resources, is researching those resources, is understanding the documents, and understanding, especially on your side, understanding all the legalities, right? Around, as you mentioned, the long-term insurance or the financial, the tax planning. I mean, there's so much there. And when you're in the midst of caregiver hell, to add more of, now I have to become an expert in this.
Sure. And that's, you're right. That's the point. I think that it's always the fear that stops people from doing. So I think that in this process, what you and I spend our time doing is telling people that it's okay. Take your time, process what you're hearing. Realize that us as resources, again, calling either one of us, starting emails, whatever it may be, connecting with somebody to be able to start the plan of being able to say, I don't know what I'm missing out on. Take that breather moment. Do this, reach out and open the door, start the conversation, because you will be pleasantly surprised with what you find out. Everybody that speaks with us, we know that they all take away something they didn't know 30 seconds before they made that phone call. And that's, I think that's because we spend time in this world every single day. But that being said, there's so much more that they'll learn by spending more time working with us and knowing that our effort here is born out of empathy and born out of trying to relieve their stress and built on years and years of experience and knowing what they're going through.
Yeah. And so before we take a moment to allow people to ask questions and make some comments, I would like to tell about the beautiful part of this story in what the family was able to do thanks to longevity and motivity care. If I can pat ourselves on the back.
It's worthwhile.
Yeah. So, once the mother sort of felt like, oh, all these things are in place, the right aids are in place, the right home situations in place, the right financial, all of the information, I have it on my app on my phone. She actually went on vacation with her 3 adult children for a long weekend, and they really got to pamper and spoil their mom. And it's just a really beautiful sort of conclusion to it. I mean, we still work with them. We're still working with the family, but just the ability for the mom to where she started with us
and leave the house,
right, to be able to take a long weekend with her 3 adult children and be comfortable enough to say, I'm going to do this. Because the other really important element that this shows is self-care.
Absolutely.
Caregivers do not give enough importance to their self-care. They're so busy worrying and taking care of others that they don't stop to realize they're going to crash, and then they won't be able to take care of that loved one.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the things their kids were really concerned about, was at some point mom is just spinning and exhausted. And I think it was really a beautiful moment when they called us and said, we finally got mom to go away for a long weekend with us, and we're really excited, and it means the world that we can give her this moment, and we can take it with her and enjoy her too, right?
Absolutely. I concur. The idea of being able to understand that you can process your feelings through all this. We should probably address the fact that sometimes people aren't picking up the phone to do this, not because of the guilt part, but they're just mad too, that they're put in this position and things like that. So the conclusion of this case being where she is now compared to where she was legitimately 8 months before is a huge change in the outlook and what the family is being able to deal with in this process. So I think that, we are a resource to be there. And like we said, we've done this recently. We did this seminar last week. We did it earlier time. We know that caregiving can be, it's a 24/7 job for some families. And, sometimes it's better in the day, sometimes it's better in the night, whatever it is. There's a time to pick up the phone and call. And then we're here to start those conversations and work with you when it works on your time schedule. So
yes, we definitely pride ourselves in the flexibility and the availability.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a moment and see if anybody has any questions or comments they want to send to us in the chat. We're happy to hear them and try to answer them. If not, Michael and I will keep talking, but we're happy to answer any questions or comments. We definitely would love to hear from you if you have any experiences or questions you would like to share with us.
Yeah, so your off-screen voice has a question.
Oh, hello.
We both of you talked a lot about, like, with families, Can you share a little bit about support you can give to people that may not be in a traditional family or maybe single and not have that kind of support? How you can help them?
Yeah, actually, we have another great example. Thank you for bringing that up. A senior level female executive, uh, living alone, super successful. COVID brought a lot of things to light, and she got COVID. And when she got COVID, we had known her personally, but when she got COVID, she called and she said, I just had this breakdown of realizing I live alone. I'm successful, but no one knows anything about anything related to my life. My brothers don't know anything. I have a financial advisor, but I don't know what my plan is. And she just went into a tailspin panic because she just didn't feel like she had the right elements in place or the right support. And I think Motivity came in and really sat down with her and said, okay, great, let's make this plan for you. Now that you've gotten over COVID, you feel better, let's come up with the plan. Who are your trusted resources? Who are your backups? Who knows your medical information, your legal, your financial, again, memberships, all this information? Where is it? Who can we add as collaborators? And also, back to Michael, you should come up with a plan. You may be perfectly healthy now and in your 50s, but how do you want to age?
Sure.
And what you want to, so Michael, please share.
Well, I agree. I think that being able to look at the process then of addressing, maybe you want to look at some long-term care insurance, to have something as a potential need out there for when you do age and you do need care. But it's the unknown is, well, who's going to help me when I go through this? And then again, it has to start with being able to have a conversation with somebody that you can build that rapport, that is going to be there as a trusted resource when you need them, and that they have resources that continue to support them, that will be with you, not in the 1 to 2 months, not in the 8 months when there's a happy ending on a different situation, not in the 5 years, in the 10 years. It could be a 30-year process, but the plan is there and the resources are there that are going to continue to follow through for care coordination, for ensuring that the assets can be changed and used as you need to, for making sure that, look, I know that I built up this amount of money and I want to have this kind of lifestyle. I want to be able to, take these trips. I want to be able to go and do this in these locations and things, but I don't want to worry about that. I have to have this kind of money put aside for care related. So is there a way to leverage your dollars to be able to have something in the future from a care perspective? Do you have all those legal things put in place? These nuanced items may have worked, 5 or 10 years ago, but as times changed, maybe relationships that you had before aren't there the same, and ensuring that you're updating your powers of attorney, those kind of important items. If you don't look at all these moving pieces, where are you going to go? What do you want to do? And knowing that the resource that you're connecting with has the whole thing, all the resources covered to help fill that out, it's scary. But I think this gave her a lot more of confidence in the process.
Right. We both like to say a lot, plan for now and the future. And we love to talk to people in their 40s and 50s to help guide them, right?
That's ideal.
Yes. Whether you're single, whether you're a non-traditional family, whether you have a partner, whether you're divorced, whatever it is, really try to think. And I think so important, if you are in that situation of non-traditional or you live alone, it's really stop and think about who are your trusted people.
Confidence. Absolutely.
As you said, Michael, perfectly, who is your power of attorney? Who is responsible for your medical directive?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows who your estate attorney is in your will, where it is? Like, really, it doesn't have to be a lot of people. It could be 1, 2, or 3 people, however many, but it is so important. And it could be us too. We've both Longevity and Motivity Care have played that role, and we're happy to support and play a supportive role in these people's lives as well. but it's stopping to think about it, I think, is really
Talking it through. And that's so important to be said, that the more you think about these things or start to go, I don't know what I don't know. And at that point, then you have the ability to pick up the phone call, and then somebody's going to tell you things you probably should think about or should be of concern. Maybe they aren't. Maybe you already have them figured. Maybe you haven't, Nick. We're not adding stress. If we had say something that you didn't think about, we're going to have a plan to make it better, and not have a happy ending there too on how that might turn out.
Absolutely. So any other questions or comments, because we're coming to the end of this fun webinar here. Anyone else?
I will add then, if not hearing anything, is that, while Karina, where we love that when people are planning when they're younger, in the 40s and the 50s and even the 60s, whatever it may be, it's not the reality always, or somebody's coming in and saying, I'm in this situation. I'm in my 70s. I'm in my 80s. I'm in my 90s. Years ago, I had a gentleman that at 95 said, I want to hire you to do my taxes. And we started to work as part of our organization. And he said, I'm going to book you for the next 10 years. And I said,
Love that.
You know what? There's no contract. I'm here as you continue to need me. Maybe it's 15, whatever it was. And it was very, I love the mindset. I've gotten a call from somebody at 92 who said, I'm not ready for you yet. Whenever it is. But we started the banner, we started the conversation, and back and forth, you figure it out. But it is never too late to plan. Just because you're also on the sicker side, or you're taking care of somebody that has health issues that are too overwhelming, there are plans that can be made. So always start the conversation somewhere, and you'll be pleasantly surprised that there might be something that works in the situation and make it better for you.
Thank you for saying that, Michael. That's super valuable. So I think I would just like to thank everybody for participating and listening to us. I'm gonna put up a slide that has some information about us and how to get in touch with us. So please reach out to Motivity, Longevity Income Solutions. Our emails are here. Our phone numbers are here. We're here to help you. We're here to support you any way you can. We, of course, take complimentary calls and complimentary emails. That is what we're here for. And we're here truly to help people in the midst of this caregiver hell. And as Michael perfectly put it, it's never too late to plan. And at no matter what age you are, you can plan, you can look towards the future. I would love to be 90 years old and calling Michael and saying, I got a plan for my next 10 years. That's amazing.
Absolutely. Well, you have my number, so we'll have that conversation then too.
Definitely.
Well said, Karina. And I always enjoy presenting with you. I love the empathy that you share. I love the banner we have back and forth. And I know that the effort is always put on as a positive effort. You said complimentary. Yeah. Pick up the phone calls. It doesn't have to cost something. Start the conversation. You'll be happy you did.
Yes. So thank you everyone so much for participating this evening with us. And we look forward to the next session. You will have another webinar coming up in March. So please tune in for that one. It will be our fabulous business partners, not us, Jonathan and Mim, but please tune in and we'll send out information for that. So thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.